am of some use after the end of this lecture. And I hope my colleagues get something out of it. I'm not suggesting that they definitely will, but I'm going to try my level best to do so. See, I think one of the reasons why I took up internal quality assurance cell and became its director, the founding director, is because I'm fond of information. And that is something that I also got. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I also went in for exercising my right to information. In fact, my right to information, the first application was filed about 6-7 days before the birth of the RTI Act as such, which was on 12th of October. Anyway, that gives, I mean, see why information is important, because it basically helps you to decide better, maybe quicker, and with a larger perspective. That's one reason. Okay, so information actually brings in what might be called transparency and accountability. And then above all that, what is important as far as information is concerned, that it gathers everybody together. It gets people together to work together, to walk together, to talk together, okay, and therefore help in building up, constructing not only things like quality cells and all that, but also the state, the society, everything. Okay? So information is a must. Let me first of all, I think in a very general manner, discuss what quality is, and I think that is something that we will be dealing with right through, and the word quality is going to appear again and again. And even if it does not occur as a term, even then it is referring to quality. Quality is a very vague term. And the interesting thing about quality, and this is something that we are going to look at maybe later on at the end of the lecture, maybe through your questioning and answering session. Basically, quality is something that is indefinable. You cannot define it. Okay, and obviously you cannot measure it. The moment you start to measure it, it turns into quantity. So it slips very quickly into quantity, and that is something that we are going to keep ourselves away from. Then what is quality? Quality is the kind of expectations that we have. And if something meets those expectations, then we understand that it has quality. That's the only way I can briefly summarize or define the term quality. Now, but then what is meeting expectations, and what are these expectations, and where do these expectations come from? These expectations do come from, let us say, our upbringing, our family, our culture, our religion, our society. Right? So they are what are otherwise known as, let's say, kind of preconditions that you enter yourself in. These are conditions already there, and you find yourself in it. So basically, when we're talking about quality, we have certain level of what might be called imitation of what is there in the society. Okay, that is, I mean, quality is going to be determined by the kind of religion we have, the kind of society that we have, the kind of that we have, the kind of people that we meet, the kind of expectations for future that we have. I mean, maybe I might get employment and I might find myself to be in good qualitative situation as far as life is concerned, but that is not so for everybody. Okay, so quality has all these parameters, and I think it's very difficult to put all those parameters together and say that this is what quality is and define it. Okay, that's one thing that I wanted to say, and clear that it is very different from quantity. It may come out of quantity, yes. Okay, it may come out of quantity, and the Marxist principle is that at a particular point of quantity, it actually changes into quality. So, for example, you put water on fire. You put on water on fire, and when it reaches a particular level of temperature, it starts to boil. So the quality changes of what is there before you. You see different things altogether. Okay, so the quality changes. Okay, given that, and keeping that in mind, let me introduce what IQAC is. Okay, IQAC is primarily an office. It's primarily an office which basically deals with higher education institutions and the way that you can enhance those institutions qualitatively. Okay, that is what it is. Then obviously, there are certain parameters which you have to abide by, what is meant by quality of academic institutions, okay? As I'm going through my lectures, you'll be gathering that, okay? Now, the IQAC has a committee. IQAC is there for all higher education institutions. The higher education institutions don't just include universities, they also include colleges. They don't only include, central universities or institutions of national importance or that, but any kind of college or any kind of university can be part of it. I mean, and obviously with UGC being the funding authority, it actually ensures that all public institutions of higher education actually come within the purview of NAC, which then actually requires IQAC to help it out in understanding what qualitative changes or what quality is being brought about in a particular institution. See, one of the basic roles of IQAC is, I mean, I'm going to say information is its responsibility, but its basic role is to actually bring efficiency to the system. Now, when I was the director, I actually asked my university to get what is known as the ERP software. ERP software is primarily what is otherwise called, I'll just give you that, enterprise resource planning software. It is a cloud-based application. And what it does, it collects information, and with the touch of a button, you'll have an overview of what's going on at any particular point of time or in any particular point of space as such, or any particular point of, let's say, faculty or maybe administrative blocks or whatever. Okay, so it brings everything into a kind of a perspective, into a broad perspective, which shows you what exactly is going on. That will actually help. That actually helps, because this is what information does. That actually helps you to make decisions, to see where things might be lacking. So let's put it this way, as far as this quality in higher education is concerned, it is efficiency. Be that, I mean, an efficiency of production. Efficiency of production of what? Efficiency of production of academics. All right. That academics actually range all the way from teaching, okay, to maybe publications. All right. So it's basically supposed to bring in efficiency to do that. But why is efficiency necessary? Efficiency is necessary because if a system is efficient, then it gives you time to indulge in other things than trying to manage the system. If a system is efficient, then it manages itself, and that's why it is efficient. Otherwise, it will not be efficient. If there are all these obstacles in the functioning of a system, then obviously the efficiency disappears. And when efficiency disappears, we do not have the kind of time that we actually require in order to proceed further. All right. Now, I think that one of the things that IQAC, I mean, let's put it this way, I think that anybody who's a director of an IQAC should have the kind of nerve, the kind of courage to actually bring into question not only the various functionaries of the society, but the head of the, of the institution, but the head of the institution himself or herself. See, the head of the institution has to be equally accountable in the system. All right, so I think that is one thing that IQAC or anybody, I mean, I'm hoping that some of you will at one time or another in your career will be directors of some or coordinators of some internal quality assurance cell. So, I mean, basically, I think that that's what should have happened. See, my experience with that, Professor Bijapur, is that the moment I took over, and obviously the university was quite aware of the kind of things I'm capable of doing or maybe not capable of doing, the kind of objections that I can possibly have to various kinds of functioning. So everybody was hostile to me. So one thing that IQAC confronts initially is the hostility. And it's the director who has to cope with this hostility, because this hostility is a day-to-day hostility. It's not a hostility that comes up and then finishes off. No, it's a day-to-day hostility. So, for example, IQAC would be trying to gather information and everybody would be trying to hide it. So IQAC has to function within an atmosphere of resistance. Okay. And IQAC has to overcome that resistance. Now, how do you overcome that resistance? That is important as well. There are two ways of overcoming resistance. One is to quash it. Okay, but that is very fascistic. The other thing is that you listen to it. And if it has anything that is useful, you adopt it. That way, people also feel involved in the kind of activities that maybe the IQAC or any institution is doing. All right. So what has actually happened with how IQAC has come into existence is that initially the UGC, which is the funding body, decided that there should be some kind of a monitoring system to see that institutions are fulfilling their obligations, that institutions are working in a manner in which the stakeholders are actually gaining, students are actually gaining from it, and other stakeholders are actually gaining from it. They wanted to know whether the funds that they are spending on education itself is actually being utilized the manner that it was utilized. They wanted to know whether the funds were actually useful in terms of spending them or not. Maybe they're being wasted, so they are not actually useful. And then obviously, finally, which institution should actually get more funds than another institution. That entirely depends on the activity that they education. So, today we even get, we finally got these kind of things called special assistance or special centers, specialist centers, those kind of institutions, where extra fund is given by the UGC to carry on with their work. So this is basically what UGC wanted. And to do that, what it thought was that maybe we go in for a kind of accreditation process. For that, it established NAAC, which I think everybody is aware of. I don't need to explain that. And NAAC started to function. So what actually started to happen was that NAAC was going from university to university, trying to look at the infrastructure, look at various happenings in it, seminars, this, that, publications, everything, the way that the system is working, the way that the administrative staff is working and everything. And start to look at that. But that involved a lot of effort. Obviously, the NAAC teams were being constituted and reconstituted all the time, and they had to go rushing in, into various universities, arrange everything, travel, this, that's becoming a big kind of a problem. So what NAAC device was, it's little, let's say, franchisees, I would call them, okay, which is what IQAC is. All right. So the IQAC then became responsible to look at the institution continuously, monitoring it all right through the year, and putting it up into a kind of a consolidated form so that accreditation committees of different kinds can actually access it, or actually talk to the director of the IQAC, or maybe interact with the entire team, the IQAC team. Instead of going down into the university or the higher education institution and looking at the grassroots level and see how things are arranged. Instead of that, they actually get, I'll come to that a little later, what is otherwise known as annual quality report, which is one of the basic functions that the IQAC has to do. It has to submit a quality report every year to the NAAC. Okay, NAAC then sits in an office, decides, looks at things, and obviously decides on whatever they have to do. Okay, so basically, it's IQAC is a continuous assessment, evaluation, and accreditation of the institution that it is present in. Okay. Now, what actually happened was that at least one visit by NAAC was required before an IQAC could be established, and that's what happened with me. I was appointed the coordinator just before the NAAC team was about to visit. Now, the interesting thing was that our then Vice Chancellor was to speak out on things, and the happenings of the university, and basically outline how the university is functioning, what the university is doing, what goes to the credit of the university, and all those kind of things. This is something that's quite a nice little story to actually explain how things should actually happen, And he was, I'm not going to use the word bragging because that's not very nice. But anyway, he was out, pouring out, saying how good our university is, this, that, and that we've got 850, research students who have qualified this year, in 1 year, 850 research students. Anyway, when he finished his speech, a lady who's been vice chancellor of a couple of universities, she said, I would like to ask a question. Vijaypur, this is quite interesting. And the question she asked was, yes, okay, you had 850 PhD scholars, I understand that, congratulations on that. But how many research scholars do you have who did not get their PhD, actually failed their PhD? And in that, the then vice chancellor was dumbfounded. He did not have a reply. See, the failure actually tells you what the quality of the place is. So in other words, quality is kind of a standard. And a standard can only be measured by, there should be a cutoff line somewhere. There should be a line drawn somewhere. So some people are definitely going to be on one side and some maybe greater number on the other side, but that's at least a few will be on one side. Okay, so basically, this is the way to build up. Like, for example, your teachers, you would be marking and grading students. You have to see what standard do you want. And in that, if the student does not come to that standard, obviously, you will not be accepting him and you'll actually be failing. And there should be no remorse about it. There should be no guilt about it. There should be no pressures about it. You should be fair on it. And obviously, fairness is required. Anyway, moving away from that, there are IQACs that are supposed to be established everywhere, central universities, deemed universities and state universities, colleges recognized by the UGC, and those recognized by the universities. There are lots of colleges that are recognized by the university. For example, Agra University has various colleges. It's not Delhi University has various colleges apart from the main campus where the master's degrees are basically taught in. So you have got, this is a large canvas. It's a huge canvas. If you look at the number of universities that are there in this, and the universities obviously include also the state universities, not just central universities. Institutions, higher education institutions also include state institutions. It's not just central institutions. So it's a very large number. So IQAC, now, if you're in a college, then the IQAC, whoever is chairing the IQAC, whoever is running the IQAC is known as a coordinator. If you are in a university, they will be known as directors. I do not think that this kind of differentiation was required, but somehow UGC and NARC actually decided to differentiate, But anyway, I don't think that's a very good differentiation because it basically speaks of some kind of a looking down, on things, at colleges can be very good. For example, St. Stephen's College, Delhi is a highly reputed institution. Why can it not have a director, But anyway, these are terms that are, to me, from my point of view, highly irrelevant anyway. But we should be aware of these things. If we are talking about quality, then we should be aware of all that is going on. And all these little happenings, these big and little terms are actually going to dictate a lot of things, as far as the thinking is concerned, as far as the developing of quality is concerned. Anyway, the IQAC then is headed by the head of the institution. In case of college, obviously, it's going to be the principal. In case of the university, it's going to be the vice chancellor. Then you have members in it, 5 members, which for if you're a college, and 8 members if you're a university. Then you have external experts on quality management, and some people coming from industries, and some local community people as well are included in it. Because see, local community people are important because then obviously they can actually come up with this kind of thing, how the locality, or let us say outreach areas are benefiting by the higher education institution. That's a very crucial aspect. So you have 2 for a college and 3 for a university. Okay. Then obviously you have a director for a university and a coordinator for a college who will be the member secretary of this. This is known as the IQAC cell. Okay. IQ cells. This is the cell that is there. So IQAC's role is, 1, to develop a quality system for conscious, consistent, and catalytic programmed action to improve the academic and administrative performance of higher education institutions. And 2, to promote measures for institutional functioning towards quality enhancement through internalization, quality culture, and institutionalization of best practices. Now, best practices are important, I tell you why I say that. I said right at the beginning that quality is a very difficult term to describe, and to actually define. So what happens is that what is otherwise adopted as best practice, okay, anywhere, or is found to be useful, or is found to be convenient, is found to be efficient, it is found to be enhancing, then that is considered to be best practice. And obviously the IQAC is supposed to adopt it and implement it in the institution that it is in. So the best practices are to be there. Okay. So it has 2 functions. I'll repeat that again. 1, to develop a quality system for conscious, consistent, and catalytic program action. To improve the academic administrative performance of the higher education institutions, and 2, to promote measures for institutional functioning towards quality enhancement through internalization of quality culture and institutionalization of best practices. The role of IQAC then can be summed up. Okay. 1, to ensure a heightened level of clarity and focus in institutional functioning towards quality enhancement. That will include the principal, that will include the vice chancellor. Because in my little experience as a teacher of 40 years, I found especially vice chancellors to be highly inefficient. Okay, because they glorify and they enjoy power, they revel in power. They do attend meetings, but then they do not prepare for them. It's their secretaries and the registrars of the university who do all the preparation. Most of the time, I've also been a member of the executive council. I've seen that the vice chancellor is unprepared. So when something was posed, something was asked, he would be asking the registrar to explain it. So I mean, I'm talking about when you ensure this and you ensure institutional functioning, the person who is responsible for the entire institution and its functioning is the head of the institution. So the head of the institution is the first person who should be accountable and should be made accountable by the IQAC. Right? B, it should ensure internalization of quality culture. And what is quality culture? Quality culture is basically how things are operated. And I'm going to say, in this case, in terms of institutional running and functioning, it is the efficiency of the system. Okay, so it should be an efficient system, and you have to ensure that. To ensure enhancement and integration among the various activities of the institutions and institutionalized good practices. Okay, so various of activities, they should not be, I mean, the activities should not be torn apart from each other. So for example, a student might be coming to a class, and at the same time, he might have to go to, he might be a good sports person, and he has to go and attend those as well. So these things have to be integrated so that both the things can continue together with minimal loss at any particular level. Okay, so those kind of things have to be managed by the IQAC. To provide, and this is important, to provide a decision-making basis for decision-making to improve institutional functioning. So what is going to happen? What is going to happen and where it's going to happen is important. This is one of the tasks as far as IQAC is concerned. So IQAC has to keep an eye on all these things. I'll come to what I did in this respect and gained a little bit. Anyway, so that's one thing. To act as dynamic system for quality changes in higher education. So basically, IQAC should be, hyperactive in a way. It should be working virtually 24 hours a day. I mean, obviously nobody can. I'm using that as a cliche, but it should be working like that, in that manner, so that everything is ready And as and when it is required, it is put in or pumped in or explained in or whatever, whatever is required, it does that. So that actually gives you a kind of a dynamic IQAC, which lead to a kind of a dynamic system. So the entire dynamic, what is dynamics? Dynamics is something that is always on the move. It is not something that comes to a standstill. It's not something, it's not something that is sentimental. Okay, theek hai, mujhe bada acha lag raha hai that, I do such and such, and therefore I stay there, doing it. No, you can't do that. You have to keep moving all the time. So dynamism is required at all levels. So dynamism is to be instituted by the IQAC. That is one of the roles, responsibilities. To build an organized methodology of documentation and internal communication. Internal communication is important because, we and Bijapur as faculty of this university, we know that we had internal interaction does not necessarily mean that you go to a department, you sit in a room and discuss it. We can do it in the corridors as well. So our corridors should actually be buzzing with the academic discussions. It should be buzzing with the academic discourses. It should be buzzing with all sorts of questions, interrogations that should be turning up. And we can go in, and this is today's world. This world is not only interdisciplinary, it is multidisciplinary. And this is how multidisciplinariness actually happens. See, in our university, one of our vice chancellors, earlier vice chancellor, despite all oppositions, I know that because I was an executive council member at that time, and I disagreed with the vice chancellor altogether. He actually got students divided up into, because this is a residential university, he got students divided up into halls and said, okay, this hall is going to be engineering students, this hall is going to be medicine students, these are going to be social science, this is going to be arts. He just hammered a nail into the entire notion of multidisciplinarity. You could not understand. He was a nice officer, so we can forgive him anyway. All right. So anyway, he did that. Now this is not supposed to happen. See, medicine, engineering, social science, arts, all sorts of students should be living together so they can come into discussions, they can come into disagreements, they can come into interrogations, they can learn about others' discipline. And each discipline is going to affect another. This is an integrated world we are living in. Integrated not only in terms of national integrations, but integration in the sense of worldly, global integration is going on. Okay, so we are going to be affected by everything, and we have to be ready for it. So that's another important role as far as the IQAC is concerned. Now, it's the responsibility of the IQAC to actually submit an annual report, assessment report, okay, IQAR, Annual Quality Assessment Report. And it does that for its institution, wherever it is established. And in the light of this, NARC is supposed to look at the entire report and then go in for accreditation. So once NARC visits, gives you a particular level of accreditation, IQAC becomes active, and then it rolls on year after year, providing annual report, which is then monitored by the NARC, and accreditation is revised after every 5 years. So in that sense, it's a very crucial institution, the education. It's a very crucial body. I think somebody's mic is on. Okay. The internal quality assurance cell in universities was to fulfill its function as a monitoring body through being a centralized information hub. It's supposed to be a hub of information, all right, which would help to understand where the weak links are in quality development and measures that may be required to improve the quality, enhance the quality, and assure the quality within the higher education institution. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that all the time, IQAC should be busy in collecting information. Let me come back to my experience a little bit. When I took over as the director, we had a small, shabby room where I think, as far as I remember, there were 4 small desks in which people were sitting. They didn't even know what they were supposed to do. Okay, it was a really shabby state of affairs. Do you know, I mean, it took me about, Bijapur Sahib, it took me about 9 months or 10 months, to actually ensure that we have an office. Now, central institution.
Tariq Sahab in University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, that is a private university, and there, the IQAC office is just like Vice Chancellor's office, because Vice Chancellor also sits in that building. Because it is a private university, they want a good rank, A plus and all, so that more and more students are attracted. The tuition fees for MA each semester is 50,000 rupees or 60,000 rupees. It's a private university and many students are joining.
Sure, Professor Bijapur. See, exactly. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, that's responsibility of the institution to give education to those people, yes.
Since the Vice Chancellor, during your time, when you were the founding director, was from Army, he had no idea about academics.
Yes, but one thing, Professor Bijapur, I mean, he was slightly open to ideas, but I mean, obviously, what happens in these institutions is that they're kind of a gherao, okay, by other people who do not, I mean, who take up what might be called the mind space, so there's very little space left, for genuine, interested, kind of conversations, very little. But anyway, what happened was, and I'm coming to what you're saying. See, as far as private institutions are concerned, they are accountable to their students. Okay. We as public institutions are accountable to the entire nation, because we are running on the income tax or the tax that we draw from those people. It's their money that we are running on. It's the public funds which run public institutions. When a rickshawala rides the rickshaw right through the day to earn some money, at the end of the day, he thinks, okay, let me buy a small soap so I can go and have a bath. In that soap, he has to pay a tax. That's the seriousness of a public institution. And we should be should be aware of it. Therefore, we should deliver our best, because we are actually getting salary from that poor rickshawala, bhai. It's a very serious matter. But most of us don't actually care about that. All we care about is that we are getting salary, and maybe we are trying to enhance our salaries, or maybe we try and earn some more from some other sources. I mean, I have never taken a single paisa for evaluation of answer books or other works, in the university. I've never done that, because I thought it was part of my duty. All right, the control of examination, at one time, there's something like 5,000 rupees bill, which I was supposed to be paid for coordinating a particular entrance examination. I refused. And the entire system went topsy-turvy. So how can somebody refuse it, And they had to reverse back, the entire thing. It's a long procedure, getting the money back into where it came from. Anyway, see, basically, I mean, I'm talking about responsibility of teachers as well, responsibility of the students as well. I mean, the students should also know that they are actually getting tuition. They're actually getting accommodation because of that poor rickshawala. I'm constantly repeating myself by saying poor rickshawala, because we should be respecting that poor rickshawala. We do not have any respect for him. This is what quality is. Quality requires that kind of thing. Okay, so when I took over this little room, I had to finally play politics in order to get office. I actually captured the finance office. Some guy retired, from there, his deputy finance officer. He had a really nice, cushy room, So I just captured it. I just went and put my stuff there and just stayed back. So, I mean, I was getting complete, a reminder, please vacate it, please vacate it. I said, I'm not going to vacate till I get my offices. So the entire office was built about within 2 or 3 days. And then, as you're saying, that this was something that the Vice Chancellor of that time and the Pro-Vice-Chancellor of that time came to look at it, to see what kind of office is it, because everybody was going around praising it. Very simple office. Very, very simple. Nothing elaborate in it. But it was transparent. I ensured that there was no difference between the people who are working in the office and the director. So there was just glass in between. So they could see me doing what I'm doing and how much I'm doing, and I could see them doing what they are doing. Okay, just to ensure that at least we work with certain quality. All right, let me move on then. See, I've mentioned that just to say that internal quality assurance cells are resisted. Okay, I think that resistance is important. Resistance should also be, should not be just resisting in the sense that because you seem to be heading the institution, therefore I'm not going to be with you, and that kind of thing. That's one thing. Resistance in the sense that it might actually come up various things with various plans and this and that. There should be people resisting it. By resisting, they're going to put in some more new ideas, and obviously that will lead to enhancement. Critical thinking about the institution, critical thinking of what's happening is absolutely essential in any higher education. That does not improve the higher education, but it also improves your capacity to do academics, because academics is nothing else apart from a critical stance. Am I right, Professor Bijapur?
Yes, sir.
Critical stand, that's what academics is. And if we are not critical about things around us, what are we going to be critical on? It's difficult to be critical on abstract things, It's much more easier to be critical whether the door should be open to the left or it should be opening to the right. All right. So, in that sense, I'm saying that resistance is good, resistance is required, and IQAC should actually ensure that there are pockets of resistance who are resisting the way that the university is functioning, who resist and suggest that there are different ways of functioning, who resist and say that, sorry, we are not going to just simply go ahead and accept what you're saying. We are going to go in for a debate. We are going to go in for a discussion. That's what an academic institution is for. That is what an academic institution is for. Okay. So it's basically supposed to monitor, collect information. I actually, during my directorship, I went to the Vice Chancellor once. And I said to the Vice Chancellor, see, the entire thing will be sorted out if we have what is otherwise known as ERP software. And ERP software basically is a software that collects data and brings it to a single platform. So anybody can access that platform or may access parts of that platform. It's not necessary that they access the entire lot. But no, but the Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor said it's going to cost 2 crore rupees. I said to the Vice Chancellor, 2 crore rupees is nothing for a university of this size. Why don't you ask the UGC or Human Resource Development Ministry to give you 2 crore rupees? What's the problem in that? No, I said, no problem. I'll generate, you give me the go ahead. I'll generate the 2 crore rupees, absolutely no problems. I'll generate it from within the university. And he said, how? I said, all I'll do is put in for temporary, kind of usage of computer and digital facilities on the students and the teachers, both a very small amount. It will come through quite quickly. Or else, what I can do is I can always go to a business house, Ambani, and say, we're going to have this kind of thing, we need your help, and we'll recognize you. They would be too happy. For them, 2 crore rupees is nothing. But he was not willing to do it. Why not? Because nobody wants transparency. If there's transparency, his actions will all be there. Nobody wants transparency because everybody wants to move around and somehow get things done, and done with. Transparency is important because it brings efficiency. Corruption and transparency are opposites. There is corruption where there is inefficiency. Where the system efficient, corruption will not be there. Now, corruption, when we talk about institutions, education institution, corruptions of various kinds. A student comes to me, sir, meri attendance badha diye. That's corruption. But I'll go ahead and do that. Obviously, there's financial corruption. Now, IQAC is not only concerned with the academics, it is also concerned with the infrastructure of the university. It's supposed to see how, what kind of infrastructure is there. It's supposed to see where is the gap in this infrastructure. It's supposed to see what kind of infrastructure is required in order to make all the academicians, all the students comfortable. These are requirements. So when I took over as the IQAC, the very first day, first day I took over the IQAC, Professor Bijapur, I took over the IQAC, and the next day, the Vice Chancellor actually issued an order on behalf of the IQAC, saying that these kind of information is required and every faculty member should fill it up. And well, I have a little bit of politics and I've played a little bit of politics, but my politics, I think, is quite constructive. So what I did was I issued a second information gathering procedure, in which what I did was I asked how many teachers in the university provide me the rank. How many of you have air conditioners in your rooms? How many of you have tables and how many chairs are there? How many of you have cupboards? Now, these are basic requirements. I mean, if you don't have comfort, how are you going to do academics? How are you going to improve in your academics? And the day that NARC team was to come, that very day, on the inaugural day, I found him standing outside, to welcome the guests. And he turned around and he said to me, the provisional said to me that, look, I issued a notice and you issued a second notice immediately after me. So I said to him, well, I think this is not the place to discuss it. I can come to your office or you can come to my office and we can discuss it. But anyway, one thing, please do not interfere with my functioning. Do not interfere with the internal quality assurance cell. Just don't do that. You keep to your work, I'm going to keep to mine. I'm not interfering in your office. Why should you be interfering in my office? I'm saying this not to praise myself. I'm saying this because this is something that is required of the director or the coordinator. Because if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to challenge the people who are in power, then you're not assuring anything at all. All right. Okay. The key responsibility for IQAC then is collection of data. And I'll tell you about this as well. It's quite interesting. I might be telling you certain things about the university, which might not go in favor of the university. I hope that I'm forgiven for that. But I think that actually I'm supposed to convey a message here, I think, Professor Bijapur. So I'm going to try my level best to do that. Okay. Now, one of the first responsibilities, as I said, was to collect data and analyze it. Okay, this meant IQAC is responsible for the collection and analysis of feedback from all stakeholders, including students, including the non-teaching staff. Okay, all stakeholders on quality-related institutional processes, and for developing and maintaining an institutional database through various kinds of, looking at various kinds of things for quality enhancement. So it is the responsibility of IQAC to establish procedures for collecting and evaluating data on various aspects of institutional functioning to get into a position to suggest ways and means to ensure quality and efficiency. I'm laying stress on efficiency all the time. See, at one point, I suggested to the university that, look, I've got something like 150 students in my BA subsidiary course, which I was teaching. So I said to him, well, look, it takes me about 15 minutes to get through the attendance. What a waste of time. It's wasting my energy. So he said, what do you suggest? I said, nothing. What you do is you have a biometric outside the door. You don't have to do. Nobody was interested. And why were they not interested? Because obviously the students turn up at the end of the year and say, please give me some more attendance so I can attend the examinations. They want to gratify those students because they use them. And imagine an educational institution, instead of teaching students, they're actually using those students. Now, next is responsibility to document and disseminate. See, documentation is a very important part. Okay, what kind of orders are coming out? What kind of, let us say, academic papers are being published, books are being published. This is all part of data. This has to be accumulated and this has to be disseminated at the same time. Everybody should know what's happening. Everybody should know what's happening, okay? And should also be looking at and collecting documents with regard to programs, seminars, conferences, whatever is happening, whatever academic activity is going on. And all this with the intention to improve it. improve it, and actually set up certain quality parameters. See, quality doesn't happen all of a sudden. Quality is a long process. So you go step by step. You take the first step, improve, then you can look at the second step. You don't even see the second step till you take the first one. Okay, that's how quality is. So you have to take the first step, then second step, then third step. It's a long, drawn-out process. Then it's supposed to facilitate quality culture by coordinating quality-related activities, including the adoption and dissemination of best practices, and help institutionalization of these practices to write and get written what might be called standard operational procedures. See, most of our higher education institutions do not have that. I mean, if you go to maybe the airport, international airport, you will see that there are procedures. I mean, normally outside any good institution or, good offices, government offices, you'll find outside on the door of the let us say the washroom, a whole slip where a person who comes in and cleans and everything has to say he has cleaned and sign it. But not only that, there's going to be an overall supervisor who will be going around seeing whether it has been signed or not, and whether the signature is acceptable or not, whether actually it happened or it did not happen. Now I'm just talking about a washroom. This is something that we need to do for the entire institution. That's the only way that we can monitor and see what's going on and see where the gaps are. When did somebody not go, the worker did not go and clean the washroom? That should be known, so we can tell him, please clean the washroom. Otherwise, how are we going to do that? How are we going to ask our teachers to improve themselves? How are we going to ask our students to improve themselves? How are we going to ask our non-teachers to improve themselves? Okay. When I took over as the coordinator, the first thing that I noticed, the registrar office, which is the administrative hub of the university. I got there, I was walking in the corridors, looking around, seeing what was going on. And the corridors had these big almiras around with lots and lots of paper in it. You open up any almira and you'll see this dust-ridden papers all around. I said to the vice chancellor that I think that what we should have is weeding out process, so the corridors are clear, so people can walk comfortably in it. Then only they will be able to approach officers. How will they be able to approach? And then the lesser the paper, easier it will be to trace. The easier it is to trace, the more efficient the office will be. Right? He agreed, and within about 3 months or something like that, the entire thing was weeded out, and we had nice, clean corridors, and obviously the efficiency of the offices improved automatically. So you're supposed to actually instill. So now what we have is every 3 years, we have this weeding out process going on, So the offices of the departments, which are obviously small offices and they have a lot to store, they are much more cleaner, they're far better. And obviously you can trace out any paper quite easily, whatever you require, with minimal amount of time. And that improves your efficiency as such. So standard operational procedures are also responsibility of the IQAC to ensure that they are in place and that actually people follow it. Now, above all this, IQAC is supposed to prepare basis for decision making. I'll give you an example. Professor Bijapur's the interesting thing was that when I took over, and this is what happens with the IQAC office. What actually happens with the IQAC office is that you start getting all these kind of queries coming in continuously all the way from government to maybe small offices in the university. So one day when I entered the office, I was given this kind of a performer which came from the UGC asking how many students there are. So I asked the people working with me. In my office, there were 7 people who were working as statistical analysts. That is because they were supposed to collect data, compile it, bring it into a situation where everybody can read it, understand it at a touch of a button, basically. Okay, so we were working on that. So I inquired about this, and the data that I actually got was that we had 31,000 students in the university. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So I said, okay, let's throw in the questions. So what I did was I asked the deans to tell me how many students have been admitted to the faculty. I asked the provost how many students were admitted to the halls. At the Ali Government University, we also have a hall called the NRC, which is non-resident hall. Okay. So the entire total number will come through. And to my surprise, the total number that came through was 19,000. 31,000, 19,000. There's a gap of 10, 11, 12,000. That's a huge figure. So I went in for checking. So what I did was I asked the controller office to give me the limit for each course, how many students are admitted. So they gave me the limits, and the limits were, when I counted them up, they came to 19,000. I was worried because I thought that if the UGC discovers that, then obviously our funds are going to be slashed and the university is going to suffer that. So I went to the vice chancellor and said, sir, this is what's happening. I think we should come out and decide as to what to do. Now, this is collection of data, processing of data, and then you come to a situation where you have to make a decision. So if you don't have all this thing, you cannot make a decision. This is the task of IQAC. You're helping to actually decide. Okay, so decision-making process is there. So he said, Tariq, what can we do? It's a difficult situation because if we do it now, then our funds will be slashed. So I said, sir, okay, then give me a little bit of time. Fortunately, Abdul Rahim Sahab, and this is something that I thought of, was that our university session was running late. And the rest of the universities had virtually completed their admissions. So they gave in their figure, this is the number of students. So I gave them 19,000, the number of students that I had. And I put down the admissions have not been completed so far. The process had not started. That petition was accepted by the UGC. And then onwards, we got 19,000. Now the decision making becomes easy. What is required for 19,000 students? What kind of facilities are required? What kind of money is required for it? What kind of grants are required for it? Where can we get all these grants from? Can we get some private funding? Do we have to go to the UGC? Do we have to go to the ministry? What levels are we going to operate on? These things then become questions where decisions have to be taken. So the IQAC actually provides all this base where decision making becomes slightly easier. Next, and I think the most important task is to actually promote research at all levels. So, at the level of students, and the students, I'm talking about even the BA students, I think that even the BA students should actually be taught certain level of research. They should be asked to write small papers, maybe 2.5 page paper, 3 page, 4 page paper. But then it should be a research paper, okay? Researchers, obviously, PhD scholars and all those, they're supposed to do research. And the faculty is supposed to do research and get it published. The IQAC is one of its roles to initiate institutional research studies on various quality parameters and help in articulating it. The IQAC is to help in publication by locating and making researchers aware of various of the various journals, publishers who actually publish their academic work. Make them aware, get them to go to higher publishers with reputation, so that obviously what actually happens is that I send in a paper, there's an evaluation of that paper for any journal, and then it is published. But if we go to higher ones, but then we have to assess ourselves as well. It's not that we are going to go to the top journal and start to ask them to publish it and then try and get up. We have to go bit by bit. So we'll find if we are a university which basically, let's say from our assessment is in the middle of things, then we will have middle journals to start off with. And then we enhance that and we progress further and we promote people. We help them. How do we help them? We help them with buying books. We help them by buying journals. We help them by sending them out to different places to attend seminars and conferences. We help them to interact academically. Even to the extent that they should actually be given funds. This was a proposal at one time for the assistant professors that when they become permanent, they're given certain funds to buy books and whatnot. in order to help them to actually have a small library so they can work comfortably. Anyway, the UGC guidelines require for promotion either on a permanent or through, and this is something important, and I think it's going to affect most of our people here attending this seminar, is that there is promotion. Promotion is through two channels. One, a direct promotion, which is through General Selection Committee and on a post, and through various kind of promotional schemes. Now, since and now what we have from the UGC is what is known as the assessment index, okay, API. API is to be submitted to the IQAC every year by all the faculty, and it's supposed to be stored there so that we know what the faculty is doing, what is it. That way we can monitor their activity, we can monitor their academic activity. When I was the IQAC chairperson, I saw this, and then, sorry, director, I saw this, and I thought this is a wonderful opportunity to maybe make some improvement in the system. But improving a system is a very hard work. So what I devised was that I said, okay, what we do is we're getting this APIs from all the faculty. It will be the task of the IQAC to put it in, digitalize it, keep the data with itself, right? Keep the data, and as and when the person becomes eligible, either for the open post or for the promotional post, then it will be the task and the function of the IQAC to intimate that teacher and send a one-page form and say, fill it up, you are eligible, send it to the IQAC. And it will be the task and function of the IQAC to attach all the documents and send it to the selection committee section. Why? So that the academicians, the teachers, don't waste their time in this clerical work. Okay? All they have to do is to fill up a single form. I drew up certain regulations suggesting this, and I actually got a program devised for it as well. So as and when somebody becomes eligible, the program will tell us, we don't have to work at it as such. All we have to do is to verify it, and that's all. I drew up the regulations for it, and I took it to the Vice Chancellor then. And the Vice Chancellor said, oh, it's so nice, I'll use my emergency powers to accept it. So I said to him, sorry, sir, I'm the director of IQAC, right? And I think that I do not want any of my proposals to be accepted under Section 19.3. Should go to the Academic Council and the Executive Council. Maybe there are people with better ideas. Why should I assume that mine is the best? Let them debate it, to place it. So he said, all right, Tariq, and he marked it to the registrar. The registrar sat on it. After a lapse of a fair amount of period, I actually went to the Vice Chancellor and said, well, your registrar is not forwarding it. He should forward it to the council section so that the matter is placed before the Academic Council and Executive Council for discussion. And he said to me, Tariq, you go to his office. So I said to him, look, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I'm the director of the IQAC. I'm not going to go to any registrar's office. Let's have proprieties, first of all. The registrar may come to it. Secondly, he doesn't work under me. He works under you. You ask him. You bring him to account. He was not willing to do it. And I'll tell you the reason. The reason was that this fellow, who was then the registrar, was a faculty of the university. And his promotions were due. And when he was promoted under RTI or got his forms out, he was not eligible either for associate professorship, nor for professorship, but he was promoted. This is how our system works. This is what IQ is supposed to fight and quarrel with and assert itself in. Right? But the system never supports you in that sense. It will take a very long time before this culture actually develops anyway. So, this is what, I thought I was doing some very constructive work in the sense that I was helping the teachers to save their time so they can devote more time to their academics rather than paperwork, All right. But anyway, the system did not accept it, and it has not accepted it even today. In fact, what I did was I phoned up the IQAC because I know that the director who followed me, he told me that file with the regulations was given to him by the registrar and asked to cold shelf. and he cold shelved it. Had I been the IQAC director, I would have told the registrar to mind his own business. And I think that's the least that one should have done. But he did not. Anyway, so it's there. So I decided that before this lecture, maybe I can get hold of those regulations and show it here. Show everybody what this is, what I proposed. But the IQAC was not willing to give it to me. They have lost the file, they say. Now, if the IQAC itself cannot maintain its records, it's the information hub. Who is going to maintain it? The entire body which is created, I never claimed it. IQAC director is supposed to get 60,000 rupees as a stipend. I never claimed it. Then you can verify it from my salaries. Okay. Somebody must be claiming. But anyway, if the money is being put in, an extra stipend is being, you have to put in an extra effort and you're supposed to do things that are required of you. But then 60,000 rupees are far more important than quality and all that and assurances, all that, in our system. Okay. Anyway, the IQAC then comes to learn, through all this monitoring, comes to learn the gaps in the activities of the university, its academics or otherwise, and devises ways and adopt means for plugging them. Okay. The IQAC then also helps bring accountability and transparency into the higher education institutions at all levels, bringing in greater efficiency with the objective of having well-anointed system. It should be a well-greased system. It should move on within its own dynamics. This is the kind of system that we require. However, it appears that IQAC is only to develop quality of research. The IQAC is also to develop quality infrastructure, including buildings to facilitate the providing of requirements of the institution and comfort to enable more concentration of work. The IQAC, see in our universities, it's really interesting. I've seen it at other universities as well. A deputy registrar, who is equivalent to an associate professor, will have an AC in his room. Will have nice, comfortable chair. Okay, a big table, multiple chairs lined up around the table. Right? And when you go into an associate professor's room, you might find a plastic woven chair, broken, maybe himself, actually touching the floor while sitting in it. Okay. That too made out of iron, steel furniture, a small table, couple of broken chairs, maybe a small rusted almirah. That's all. I saw one of the deputy registrars, his AC stopped working for some reason or the other, wasn't functioning properly, and the next day it was changed. And there are faculty in this university who go around asking for ACs and they never provided one. I managed to actually redo my department to make it more comfortable for everybody. I managed to get some ACs put in. Anyway, it was a kind of a sealed department, so even a big air cooler would suffice, because everybody would get cool air from that. I managed that. And my staff, even today, they sit up to 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening working in the department. That is what IQAC is supposed to do. This is the task of IQAC. It should actually manage to get the university in that kind of state, so better and more work is done. Okay, so this is how it's going to do it. And it's going to do it not only through academics, through infrastructure, and through supportive staff. The supportive staffs have to be taken care of as well. Supportive staff is supposed to be the registrar, the deputy registrars, the clerical work staff that is there, all those supposed to be the supportive staff. They're supposed to, and I tell you, Bijapur also knows the fellow, Professor Anwar Alam. Professor Anwar Alam was an activist, right? His services were terminated from the university. All right. Although a university should be a ground where resistance should be free for all, and there should be these kind of resistant activities, and there should be these kind of political activities that go on, because these very people are going to be the future leaders of our society. And if they don't have this kind of experience, what are they going to bring What kind of change are they going to bring? Anwar Alam actually then went to the High Court. The High Court did not accept because there was plenty of influence around there. He did not, so he gave up. A position of assistant professor appeared at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and he went and joined it. I'm mentioning this because Jawaharlal Nehru University is a premier institution. I think nobody is going to disagree on that academically. He went there and he submitted his papers, including what are otherwise known as pensionary liabilities. That is, whatever provident fund is that he submitted to the university during his services are supposed to be transferred. So he submitted his papers. About 2 months later, he got a phone call from the registrar's office. And the fellow on the other side was an assistant registrar. And he said, "Sir, you have submitted your papers. Your resignation letter slightly problematic for us." And he said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, it does not say technical resignation, just says resigned." Okay, so office memo should have been, he has not resigned, but he has technically resigned. This is the office memo, then we can get all your liabilities. Now, this is the work of the supportive staff. Anwar Alam did not have to worry about what's going on. That was the task of the supportive staff, to ensure that he's comfortable. So he came down to Aligarh, got the thing changed, got technical, and he got all his pension liabilities and benefits relieved from there. This is supportive staff. So yeah, the IQAC is supposed to ensure that this supportive staff is actually playing his supporting role, which most of the institutions is not the case. I know some of the higher educations which are internationally recognized higher institutions, specialized higher institutions. They have what is known as, they're very savvy technically very savvy. So they'll call themselves HRD, They are human resource people, So, and these human resource people are supposed to be, they behave as if they are bosses instead of supporting. So they raise obstacles instead of support. So this is basically the task of IQAC. And I think that I've said enough, sufficient. So the floor is open for any kind of questions, discussions that you would like.
Thank you, Professor Tariq Islam Sahab. During the same time when I think you were founding director of IQAC, probably I was also chairman of the Department of Political Science.
Yeah.
And you were fighting from, your corridors, and I was fighting.
Sorry, Professor Bichapu, can I just interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah.
One more thing. Okay?
Yeah.
It is quite interesting. Sorry for this. I apologize. But that just reminded me. See, what I did was I devised these Excel spreadsheets. And I think when you refer to your chairmanship, you mostly have seen it. I sent them off to all the faculty offices and to the department offices. And what I required that every month, those forms are filled up, sent to the dean office, who will consolidate all the information regarding all the departments, and then that will be sent to the IQAC. So the IQAC is going to, the amount of resistance, nobody would be actually filling that information up. It was totally amazing. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, you were waging dissent, war against the inefficient administration from your initially a shabby office and later a better office. I was also doing the same thing with the university authorities. And, as you mentioned, that many people were not filling in those forms which were sent to different departments for compiling information about the teachers attending seminars or publications which they have done during a particular period of time. I also at the same time wrote a letter to the Vice Chancellor saying that on the university website, the CVs of all teachers should be there. And you ensure that if anybody doesn't send their CV on the for uploading on the university website, their salaries should be withheld. The Vice Chancellor appreciated the idea. He started sending, letters to all the faculties, and gradually people started sending their CV, because Actually, why many people were resisting was that many people had no CV at all. That was one reason. They had no publications. You mentioned about one person who was registrar. He had no CV, no publications, no academic work. Those kind of problems were there. One point of appreciation due to your initiative was weeding off the old newspapers or old files, dump of lot of things were there in the corridors of the departments, universities, various offices, which was immediately implemented because of the vice chancellor, who was from military background.
Yes.
But he was not from academics.
No.
Understood the situation, and he immediately implemented those good suggestions. One of my suggestions was also
being from military background, he knew how to keep the ditches clean.
Yeah. One thing I remember, somebody went to him, a retired non-teaching went to him after 6 months after his retirement and complained, "Sir, my pension is so far not approved." He was shocked. He said, in army, in our army, within on the day of retirement, we give all the checks, all the funds, retirement benefits are given. He immediately called a meeting ahead, and he introduced the system that 6 months before the retirement of any faculty or employee, non-teaching employee, the process should be completed, and on the day of retirement, I will call a small meeting of that person. I will offer a cup of tea, and I will myself, as a vice chancellor, will hand over the checks.
That was a lovely practice that they put in.
That was a very good practice.
Yes.
And because of that, even I did not suffer. On the day of before retirement, my pension order was already issued. But the subsequent vice chancellors did not follow that practice.
Yes.
That was one problem. I was unhappy with that vice chancellor from an army background about one thing. I had suggested to him that the university administration should be computerized.
Yes.
File tracking system should be introduced. I give the example that Jamia Millia Islamia. Some 10 years ago.
Yes.
Now it is 20 years ago. Has introduced file tracking system.
I mentioned that as well. Yes.
But he had intention to implement, but local people resisted, and that was
yes.
Even today it was it has not been implemented. My last point, you mentioned about 19,000 students admissions, etc. I was surprised when I went to England to do my masters. Though you have done your undergraduate course from England, you know very well that in my University of Essex, a particular day was reserved for admission of all the students of all the courses in the university. Only one day. And we prospective students did not go to any office. Temporary offices were, shamianas were constructed in the garden outside, in the open garden, where number 1, 2, 3, you have to start with number 1 office, 2, 3, 4, and in 1 hour, half an hour, your admission is over.
Yes.
And throughout the year, there is no admission because Britain doesn't follow the semester system; they follow the annual system. And once your admission is over, then no more admissions in the university.
Yes. Whereas
in Aligarh, till December, admissions are going on.
On and on. Yes.
That is one problem. With these few remarks, I will just put one question, and then we will throw open the discussion to the participants. That is, you mentioned about the best practices. Every university, before the NAAC peer review team comes, they prepare documentation, and also they try to highlight what are the best practices in that particular.
Yes.
Now, I would like to know, I have been like you, I have been in the university for almost 40 years in Aligarh Muslim University. I do not know till today what are the best practices of Aligarh Muslim University. I would like you to throw some light on this best practices.
No, that's a very good question. See, because I resigned before the entire thing started to move on.
I also resigned as a chairman.
Yes, I resigned.
Just one point before you answer this question. When I resigned, a Delhi University teacher of a friend of mine said, "अरे भाई, आपने रिजाइन किया, आपको शहादत का दर्जा मिल गया." That is what he said. Okay, continue.
So actually, what best practices the university has adopted, I do not know actually. So I'm not going to make any comments on that. Okay.
Okay.
But I mean, let's make a very general comment, and that I think I can make. It did not adopt very many of them. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Right? I visited many 3-4 universities and some 5-6 colleges as a member of NAC team. In Nasik, one college, we were very surprised to see that they had a garden of avocado fruits, and they were earning 10 lakh rupees income every season.
That
was the best practice. That was the best practice of that college. It was a small degree college.
That was one thing that was coming through, as far as Aligarh Muslim University was concerned. Aligarh Muslim University has plenty of land, and the problem that actually ends up with is that people try and encroach on it. So the best practice for that possibly was that we decided, because there's also an agriculture institute and a faculty. We said, okay, all the land that is around the university, which is likely to be encroached, why don't we just keep it open and let's grow wheat in it?
You see, I was for some time member of some committees in Dayalbagh Institute in Agra.
Yeah,
it is a very interesting university. They have a lot of fields. The wheat is grown, vegetables are grown. They have a lot of buffaloes. Dairy farming is there, they even sell in the market.
That's what I was proposing. Because we have a residential university.
Yeah,
the students can get good food from there.
Organically, vegetables can be grown.
Yeah, good meat, good vegetables, good wheat. All these things can be actually grown and at the same time experimented with. So the agriculture faculty would have benefited from it.
In Dayalbagh Institute, which was started 3 years earlier than AMU college was established. AMU was established. AMU was established in 1920. Dayalbagh was started in 1917 when the Russian Revolution came. And every faculty member has to offer services in the fields, in the gardens. Even the vice chancellor also has to work. Everybody has to work in the fields.
Yes.
Okay. Friends, now the questions, now the debate will be open for everybody. Anybody can ask questions. Professor Tariq Islam will be glad to answer your questions. You can share any best practice of your college, your university also, for wider dissemination of information. Lot of emojis we are seeing, good lecture and all those clapping hands, but no questions. Questions should be there.
One little interjection here. See, most of us, and that includes me, we normally hesitate in asking questions. The reason for that is that we start to think.
नहीं सर, असल में
जो
के मेंबरान हैं उनको
Sorry?
पूछिए कुछ पूछ रहे हैं. Somebody is asking.
Yeah, sure.
सर मैं ये पूछ रहा था कि अभी हम लोग नए हैं, तो अभी हम लोग IQAC में अभी हम लोग का इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं है, तो इसलिए हम लोग को उसके बारे में बहुत सारी अंदर की चीजें नहीं पता है. लेकिन दोस्त लोग कहते हैं कि IQAC में आप शामिल होइए, उसमें बहुत कुछ जानने को मिलेगा। तो जो लोग अभी अगर मेंबर हैं IQAC में, तो वो बेहतर बता सकते हैं कि उनको किन चीज़ों का सामना करना पड़ रहा है। जैसे सर ने अभी शेयर किया अपना के उनको कौन-कौन सी चीज़ें, किन-किन चीज़ों का उनको फेस करना पड़ा है। तो जो हमारे जो कलीग्स हैं, जो अगर IQAC में हैं, उनको फेस करना पड़ रहा है, तो वो शेयर करें, तो उससे हमको बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलेगा।
Say, sir, sorry, one little thing. I mean, see, IQAC is an office, definitely. But it has to be an open office. You're an equal partner in it. You might be at a distance, but you are an equal partner in its activities. If it is an efficient IQAC, then it is because of you, not because of the director. So you should feel yourself as part of it, and you should try and contribute to it. You should question it. You should find out what's going on there.
It has to be a collective effort, you know. It has to be a collective effort. You mentioned about, you know, when the garbage was cleared from the corridors, many people were discussing in the corridors.
There's somebody, Dr. Mukhtar.
Yeah, Mr. Mukhtar Saab
Yeah,
is
please.
asking something. Mukhtaruddin Saab, पूछिए.
Sir, good morning.
Very good morning.
Sir, IQC important part of college, universities, but वो आस्थापना पे क्यों नहीं है सर? उसका पोस्ट जो है वो अलग से क्यों नहीं है? मतलब वो एक्स्ट्रा काम है वो उसका। और मैं वो देख रहा हूँ IQC करने वालों का, उसका खुद का कुछ काम होता नहीं, वो बस IQC में ही रहता दिन भर वो काम करते हो।
नहीं, देखिए अलीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी has 1,500 teachers, 19,000 students, something like 11 to 12,000 non-teaching staff. It comprises of something like 18 faculties and something like 113 or 120 departments. I used to spend only 3 hours, an hour in the morning and 2 hours after my office hours in the department. That is after 4 o'clock. When I take on a responsibility, I should take on responsibility, full responsibility. I have to give it extra time. I have to give it extra time, not sort of get time out of my teaching. Not at all.
Yes, sir.
Not. So, I mean, Director IQAC, I mean, see why the reason why, one of the major reasons why Director IQAC is internally there, because the internal person is supposed to know more about the functioning of that particular institution, more about the weaknesses of that particular, the advantages of that, the strengths of that institution. Then an outsider, if you appoint somebody, bring somebody and appoint as Director IQAC, he will not know anything. And see, teachers are good at this. They can fool people. They can fool people much better and much easier.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, an outsider would not even know what's going on. That's what happens with most of the vice chancellors. They don't really know what's going on, and everything happens, you know, and they discover it all of a sudden. So, IQAC person has to be from inside. That's my justification for it. You may agree.
And you have a lot of staff to help you. 3-4 staff, clerical staff will be there.
Yeah.
And you see, saying that you are a IQAC director, full-time director, you cannot skip your classes. You have to take your classes. You have to do your regular duties, because your salary is paid as a teacher, not as a IQAC director or coordinator.
See,
Yes,
it is part of the duty. I appreciated Tariq Saab that I was also not knowing that you never claimed honorarium or remuneration for evaluating answer books. Actually, in the American model, there is no remuneration. Course teacher evaluates the work done by students or submitted by the students. JNU since 1971 is following that system. Course teacher sets the question paper. There is no money for setting question paper. There is no money involved for evaluating. You know, it is part of the duty. The American system is like that. North America, Canada, all the countries follow that system. But it is only in India that we have controller of examination, remuneration bill, form, and nowadays digitally the money has to be transferred. It is rarely transferred, sometimes not transferred at all. ये भी होता है, ये भी होता है.
हेलो सर.
हाँ जी.
सर यहाँ पढ़ाने के अलावा सारे काम होते हैं, टीचिंग नहीं होती है, बाकी सारे काम होते हैं यहाँ पर.
प्रतिमा.
I have one question. Pramita
Yes.
Garai છે.
Pramita.
Sir, how the student feedback are collected by IQAC and how they utilize this in NAC accreditation or something?
See, every year, the IQAC sends out a questionnaire, which are supposed to be taken into the class, and not the class teacher, but some other teacher of the department will go in with the form, get it filled up by the students. Now that form actually evaluates the level of lectureship, their satisfaction, dissatisfactions, even ask them for comments on the lectures, on the studies that are going on the teacher himself or herself, right? That is collected department-wise, looked at the department and see how things are going, which teacher is a good teacher, which teacher is not a good teacher, how to improve that not a good teacher. Obviously, you don't need to improve a good teacher because he's always improving. A good teacher quality is that he's always on the improving road, okay? So you don't have to worry about him. Then it will be collected at the faculty level, okay? And seen which department is a good department in the sense that it's getting good feedback. That means the majority of the staff or the teaching staff there is good, okay? And then it will be looking at the university level, and through all that, it actually goes in to decide whether some department requires more staff than the other, whether some department is not up to the mark and what can be done to bring it up to the mark and all those kind of things. So basically it gets it. Now, obviously, the last thing that we tried was Google Forms. So you put in a Google form, every student is supposed to fill up, and these students are not only supposed to fill up what's happening in the classroom, but outside the classroom, what's happening in the sports fields, what's happening in various kind of small seminars and this and that, everything, So you get the students, and obviously the students are the biggest stakeholders in a university or a college. They are our priority. So they're given that importance because we are working towards them, obviously, apart from our selfish ends as well, where we're trying to improve ourselves academically for our own benefit as such, Okay, let's be very clear about it. And obviously with the intention of improving the pool of knowledge a little bit. But otherwise, the biggest stakeholder is the student. He has to be cared for. So it's not only qualities in terms of qualities of how good a teacher is in teaching, but also how caring that teacher is, how much time that teacher gives to the student. Is he readily available to you or is he not? All those questions are put in, and that's how the feedback comes in.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Most welcome.
Yes.
sir, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening talk. I'd like to say, can we collect the feedback via Google form, because that will not be maintaining the anonymity of the student. The student identity may be revealed. So,
You see, NAC peer team review interacts with students in a closed room, and no officer of the university is allowed inside, neither the vice chancellor nor registrar. Otherwise, if they complain to the NAC authorities about what difficulties they are facing in the university or college, once the NAC team goes out, those students will may be punished, and we don't allow because that is the protocol, SOP. NAC prescribes only the vice chancellor or registrar will come and introduce the NAC peer team review, and then they go out. Not even guard is allowed to be inside. Once I remember in my team, a guard was standing. We asked him to go out of the hall because he will report which student had made a complaint. So these things are there. Tariq sir, you wanted to say something. You were mute. आप mute हैं.
No, I'll say something.
Oh,
See what my personal experience is as an RTI activist. I actually set up a website. And the website was open to anybody who wants to give us any information. The problem with that was that if the name comes out as to who is given the information, that person would be prosecuted and persecuted, obviously. So we managed a software where the name did not come through. And you would not believe the kind of information that we were getting. You would not believe it.
Tariq Islam is a great activist. He has his own website on RTI, and he helps many people to file RTIs, especially asking, pertinent questions. As in your research proposal, research questions, formulating research questions is very difficult. Similarly, formulating right questions for RTI information also is very difficult. So he helps many people to file RTI applications. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that was my
Assalamu alaikum,
experience.
sir.
Google can be devised where identity is not revealed.
Yeah. Yes, please.
सर
मोहम्मद
एक्चुअली नैक को सर 7 क्राइटेरिया दिया जाता है कि आप इस पे काम करिए, जो नैक की टीम होती है, और उसमें कुछ है एक एडिशनल कोर्स को ऐड किया जाता है कि आप एडिशनल कोर्स अपने जो है कॉलेज में चलाइए, उस पर मार्क्स मिलते हैं 30 पॉइंट, जबकि उसका एजुकेशन से बहुत ज्यादा रोल तो है नहीं सर, लेकिन उसमें बहुत ज्यादा वेटेज दिया जाता है। तो अगर हम ये नैक का 7 क्राइटेरिया को जो फॉलो करते हैं, उसमें से बेस्ट क्राइटेरिया क्या है जिसपे हम ज्यादा फोकस किया जाए सर नैक पे?
आप म्यूट हैं साहब। तारिक साहब, you are mute.
Sorry, I'm not going to go into that because I think that a teacher of a university should be left free to decide for himself. I mean, you may have 7 criteria. It's not necessary that you follow the criteria that NAC has provided, that this is the sequence or this is the order. No, you don't have to. All right. I think that any assessment accreditation body should not be doing that. But anyway, they have to collect they have to play their role. They have to collect their data to actually bring out some kind of accreditation. But thing is that one may decide. However, as far as introduction of papers, all that is concerned, primary task to actually get that information is to see how you're progressing. Because if you're not introducing new papers, you're stagnating. And stagnation obviously is going to bring a halt to your activities and you're not going to progress. So introduction of new papers and obviously what goes in there. See, that is not a qualitative analysis. That is a quantitative analysis. How many papers have you introduced? 3. That is not quality. IQAC and NAC should actually be assessing qualities, and I have great objection. I raised that objection in front of the NAC team. See, how come Harvard is the #1 university in this world? On what grounds? Let's have a look at that. That is because it has the money and it has the largest amount, the biggest amount, the most expensive amount of infrastructure, not academics. Academically, Cambridge and Oxford are far superior. You tell me how many renowned professors you know from Harvard? A few. London School of Economics, Professor Bijapur, when I was there, London School of Economics had 7 Nobel laureates working at the institution at one time. 7 Nobel laureates.
In about Harvard, it is said, if you stand on the campus of Harvard and take a stone and close your eyes and throw the stone in any direction, it will hit at least 1 Nobel laureate.
But that is not entirely true.
No, it is in humor, in humor it is said.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you, sir.
what I'm saying is that is, see, what is important is that there should be progress. And progress is not quantitative, it is qualitative. So there's a difference of opinion between me and IQAC and the NAC, as such. Okay, I think that quality is what we should be looking at. So it's not there should be some kind of an assessment team, maybe at the faculty level, which will assess what's the quality of the introduction of the paper, of the new course. That should be there. I'm saying faculty level because, I can assess maybe something like English, maybe, right? Literature. Okay, a person from chemistry will be hardly capable of doing that. I'm not suggesting not everyone. There's some people who are highly interested in literature and maybe are capable of doing that. But I mean, normally they're not. So you expect this to happen at the faculty level. And the faculty level should put up, and that should suffice as far as NARC is concerned and the university is concerned. That's my view.
Thank you, friends. We had a wonderful session today, and it was a bit late to start question answers, but finally many participants.
I think took too much time. Yes.
Yeah. I now request Himadri Ghosh. He was around just now. Seen. Can you propose vote of thanks to our resource person, Mr. Himadri Ghosh? Yeah.
Thank you. I thank Professor Tariq Islam. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. IQAC is a very important part of every colleges and universities, and it is also a very important part of our life. Our teachers' life. Our promotion depends on the activities of IQAC, and a little bit of experience that we have gathered in the last 2 years. I have been teaching in a college for the last 2 years. I have understood that it's a lot of job.
Madhuri, which college are you in?
I am from Burdwan University, one small college, Burdwan University.
I love Burdwan University. It's a wonderful place to be in, I tell you. Yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
So I have seen that it's a mountainous job. I mean, it's a. So I asked you the question about the feedback because I am responsible for collecting feedbacks, and,
Good.
I am thinking that this offline mode, we basically collect the hard copies of feedbacks, and I compile them myself and find out some kind of pattern in that feedbacks. So that is so I was thinking that if we can introduce the Google form anyway. Sir, thank you.
Badri, if you
Yes,
cannot, sorry, I'm interrupting you. See, even if you are not getting Google form,
yes,
you can actually devise these forms on a spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, sir.
And spread them around,
Okay.
All right. The only thing that this student will have to do, I mean, you're talking about student feedback, I think. What he'll have to do is he'll have to get hold of some computer somewhere, open it up, fill it up, and send it to you.
And that is another problem. I mean,
contain any names as such. Yes.
Our students are not that much, computer savvy, or they don't have that equipment. Anyway, sir, thank you so much for your wonderful session. I thank all the participants for being so much interactive, and we have learned a lot. And I thank AMU for organizing this wonderful sessions. We are learning a lot since the last 15 days. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to thank Professor Bijapur to give me an opportunity to interact with you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tariq Saab. Thank you. See you some other time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
5 मिनट रह गए.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
शुक्रिया सर, शुक्रिया.
जी. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. I'm going off.
जी. Bye.
Going off.
So you have to exit from this
Thank you,
meeting
sir.
and join the next meeting. उसका लिंक अलग है. इससे एग्जिट करें.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर.
वालेकुम सलाम जनाब.
मोहम्मद अबू शाही सर. कल की भी कोई पीपीटी व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में नहीं आई सर. अभी थोड़ा पढ़ लेना, रिवीजन थोड़ा अच्छा हो जाता है, उससे मेमोरी में जाता है. और
Okay. PPT. Yeah. वो तीनों, all the 3 resource persons did not send me directly. I will forward the message to Mazhar to share. मैं डाल दूंगा, आज ही डाल दूंगा. मेरे पास आया नहीं है, वो मजहर साहब के पास आया.
मदर साहब का सारी अपलोड करना हमारे लिए बंद होगा, सारे लोगों के लिए. वो सब आपके पास नहीं, इनके पास आपकी.
सर, साहब आपको बोलते 2-4 कुछ सलाहकार